We all need to eat, which is why so much of our countryside is used to grow crops. The trouble is the crops we grow need to be fed too. And for them, a delicious dinner is oodles of thick, black compost. Well, that means farmers around the country need thousands of tons of the stuff, and there's a lot more to making it than simply chucking a few grass cuttings in the bin behind the garden shed. So, how do they do it? For years, we've been dumping our waste into whacking big holes in the ground known as landfill sites. Trouble is, the organic part of our waste, such as mouldy old bread and the remains of our Sunday dinner, becomes unstable when it rots and produces lots of potentially dangerous methane gas. So what to do? Well, to find out, I've come to a new facility here in Canford, near Poole in Dorset, because here they've discovered a way to get rid of organic waste by putting it on top of the ground instead of underneath it. The secret is to turn it all into compost. The process begins with lorry loads of stinking, fetid rubbish from households in Bournemouth being dumped into this huge reception hall, as operations manager Andy Bland explains to me.
Goodness me, Andy, that is quite a pile of... That is your standard, your classic household waste. Is that what it is?
It's Bournemouth Borough Council's domestic refuse.
But this really is the household waste. It's the stuff you put in your dustbin to get rid of, rather than the recycling bin or the cardboard bin or the plastic bottle bin or all that. It's just anything.
This is everything in en masse. No separation up front. And our task is to liberate all of the biodegradable fraction and remove that from that pile and compost it.
Right.
Every year, this plant handles 30,000 tonnes of unsorted black bag waste and another 20,000 tonnes of sorted organic waste. Eventually, all this rubbish is turned into 25,000 tonnes of compost a year. But before they can begin composting, the first job is to separate the organic material from the other stuff we throw into our bins, which accounts for around half of the waste. Doing this by hand would require a small army. So it's just as well they have a rather clever sorting machine. They begin by shredding the waste into smaller particles before screening it in a huge rotating sieve called a trommel screen, which removes any bits larger than 70 millimetres. Most of these are plastic or wood, and they can be sent for recycling or to landfill. Meanwhile, electromagnets remove any pieces of metal. As you might imagine, it's a stinky process. So the building containing all the waste is equipped with odour and dust suppressors in addition to a suction ventilation system. Once the sorting machine has done its job, what they're left with is almost all biodegradable material.
Wow. So actual bits of paper then, little bits of torn paper, that will break down?
That will break down in the composting halls.
Right. And then what happens to that once you've got a big pile here? What happens to you? What do you do then?
That will get transferred to the composting hall, and then at the end of the process, any plastic that you see here, obviously that won't degrade and that won't compost. So we'll screen it to the very end.
Right, I see.
And take out the plastics in there.
Pretty efficient. I mean, when you consider what went in the other end.
Yeah.
The next step is to transfer this material to the composting hall. Now, the trouble with making compost like you do in your garden is that it's a really slow process. So here, they speed things along a bit. The waste is piled up in 4-metre wide heaps called windrows. These are centred along aeration ducts in the floor, which use a series of fans to draw air through the piles. In order to monitor the composting process, they need to place a number of probes into the piles, so it's time to get changed into some bunny suits.
Andy, I can't help feeling slightly heavily prepared. I mean, what are we doing now? I mean, this is full-on protection gear we got.
Yeah, basically we've got very heavy concentrations in here of naturally occurring bioaerosols, so we just need to protect ourselves, put the masks on, put the hoods on, and then we're covered.
And then we can clamber all over this delightful stuff.
It's not just the pong we need protection from, because at this stage there's a risk from airborne microorganisms, such as bacteria and fungi, which could give us more than just a runny tummy.
Oh, good, I can breathe.
Once kitted out with our suits and breathing gear, it's time to scale the heights of the compost mountains.
So whereabouts do we put the first one in? How much about there?
We need to place the probes at regular intervals into each of the piles.
Is that about far enough?
Perfect.
Great.
Each probe is fitted with 5 sensors, and once in place, they'll allow the composting process to be monitored from the safety of a nice, clean control room.
right. Oh, I see. Oh, it's a proper control room. I just thought it was a little shed we were coming to, but this just... So what am I looking at here?
This is the brains of the outfit, really. This is where the control takes place and automates all of the system. If we look on the screen here, we'll see there's an overview of the plant where we've laid the compost out into windrows within the composting halls.
Right. So that represents the compost, each one of these rows?
That's correct.
Right. So this whole system then effectively runs itself?
It does, yes. We have the ability to intervene manually if need be, but to interrogate what's happening automatically, we can have a look at the computer screen.
Oh, right.
Thanks to this remote monitoring, they can see whether they need to add more water and oxygen to the compost, whilst also crucially maintaining the temperature between 60 and 70 degrees Celsius.
The most important thing from our point of view is to sanitise the material, and the temperature is the key to that.
Right.
We have to hold the material above 60 degrees and hold it there for 48 hours and make sure that we've killed off any disease that's in there, any pathogens, salmonella, that kind of thing.
So with the compost in the capable hands of the computer, all they have to do now is wait. As the compost slowly does its thing, the odour inside the main hall bears little resemblance to a field of roses. So to avoid running foul of the neighbours, air from the hall is fed through an acid scrubber, which removes the stinky ammonia in a chemical reaction that converts it into nitrogen and hydrogen. It's then fed through a special biofilter.
Wow, this is the most extraordinary place. So I don't know what this... Well, it looks like bark. Is that what it is?
Yes, it is. It's pine bark, yes.
Right. And how deep does it go, then?
It's about 3 metres.
This filter uses bacteria living on the bark to break down the odour-producing gases.
I mean, it smells a bit like sort of rainforest or moist wood. It's not an unpleasant smell. It's quite pleasant.
That's right. It's very moist, the air that we're extracting anyway.
Right.
So that's exactly what.
So that keeps it moist. So it's not likely to dry out.
No, not at all. Especially in the English summers.
Yes.
The filter produces no toxic waste, and what's more, it lasts for years. Back inside the hall, the compost has been rotting away for 8 days, kept at a constant temperature above 60 degrees Celsius. But to ensure this slow cooking has killed off any nasty germs, the compost now needs to be turned before the whole process is repeated. That means it's time to bring out a monster mechanical compost turner. It's a kind of cross between a giant rotavator, a lawnmower pumped up on steroids, and a dinosaur with steel teeth. Oh. It's operated by driver Gary Taylor.
Yeah, these bits are revolving backwards towards you. And basically, as the pile falls over, it's regurgitated, brought in, and sent up the conveyor out the back of the machine.
And then what are the frightening chainsaw bits at the side?
These are just to assist to actually cutting through. The piles are around about 2 metres, so this has to be capable of actually trying to push that amount of tonnage.
Right.
And then gurgitate it through, and then spit it out the back, creating the pile behind it again.
Right. So is it quite difficult to drive?
It can be at times.
Do you reckon I could even do a bit, just have a go just here, so I don't damage anything? Can I? Thank you.
So with the promise of getting to drive this beast, it's time to get changed into our overalls and breathing gear and set to work. The machine's a bit like the mole from Thunderbird 2, and its ferocious jaws chomp their way through the lines of compost. So when it comes to my turn to take the wheel, I just pray I don't lose control and wind up boring a hole through the side of the shed.
I'm going in. Oh, it's nice and cool in here. That's a relief. Yes. Now, you're going to be able to squeeze in there.
Oh, we'll just about, hopefully, somewhere.
Fortunately, while it's like an oven inside the composting hall, I'm pleased to discover that the inside of the cab is fully air-conditioned, so I can chomp my way through the compost in comfort. After a few minutes under Gary's watchful eye, I've started to get the hang of things, and soon I'm churning up the lines of compost with abandon.
I don't think I've broken anything yet. I'm really hoping not.
Once turned, the compost will sit in the hall for another 8 days before it can be moved into deeper piles to rot down for another week or so.
Wow. That is
amazing. It's so lovely and cool in the cab. Then you open the door. It's stinking hot. It's just unbelievable.
Just 4 weeks after the process began, the compost is taken from the hall and given a final screening to remove any remaining contaminants such as bits of glass, plastic or metal. It's then mixed with soil to add structure and, like a cheap wine, matured for just a few more weeks before it's ready to serve.
Now, when you threw away the remains of your Sunday dinner, you probably thought you'd never see it again. And yet a few weeks later, your leftovers have been turned into delicious food for a whole new crop of vegetables. Brilliant. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go and have a shower.